The incident I'm about to narrate was told to me by my husband and which happened to my mother-in-law. A bit of a background about our family. My husband and I are both medical doctors doing our post-graduation and born and raised in Multan. This happened when my husband was about 13 to 14 years old, and his family decided to take a trip to the northern areas of Pakistan. Gilgit and Baltistan, along with Kashmir, are some of the most beautiful places in the world, with tall, ice-capped mountains and captivating valleys. And above all, the solitude and calmness in contrast to the busy and polluted air of the cities is a welcome escape from the daily routine. So, coming back to the story, they packed and left in the early morning for a week's trip, which included the parents and my husband with his 3 elder siblings, 2 sisters, and a brother. They enjoyed a lot on their trip, especially at the famous Hunza Valley. At one point, with a day remaining of their trip, they couldn't find a suitable hotel and after much hassle, got one at a very distant place with very little population and residences around. There was hardly anyone residing in the hotel at that moment, and they got a room on the 2nd floor. Now, this room had 2 windows, one larger, facing one of the beds at some distance from the foot end, and both of these were locked. As there was a day remaining, they decided to do some shopping and left in the afternoon, returning around 10 p.m. They immediately took to packing their stuff. My mother-in-law couldn't find her handbag she bought on one of her earlier shopping trips. They looked everywhere in the room and in their travel bags, which sounded very strange as they took much care locking all their stuff when they left, and she distinctly remembered putting it in one of the travel bags and locking it up. Then, where did it go? It was already late night, so they decided to sleep with hopes of giving it one more try in the morning before leaving. That night, my mother-in-law woke around 2 a.m. and felt the room's temperature to be unusually cold when something caught her eye, which gave her chills. She saw that the large window near the bed was open, and there was a woman sitting on the windowsill facing her. She was attired in traditional northern clothing, even wearing a traditional Hunzai woman's cap, and had a blank expression on her face. The eerie part was that she had my mother-in-law's handbag in one hand and with her other hand was slowly gesturing, calling her near as if to come and take her bag. My mother-in-law started reciting prayers and drew the blanket over her face and kept it as such. After some time, she felt that the heaviness and cold in the room had gone, but she couldn't sleep for the night. When everybody woke up in the morning, she was shocked to see the window locked and her handbag lying on the side table near the bed. She told everyone, after which they started packing and left. The thing which concerned her was how the lady got there when everything was locked, how she got the bag in the first place, and above all, who she was and whether she was evil. They tried asking the receptionist about it, and he had no clue either, as he started working there recently.
So, my family and I live in Islamabad, and we get back to Azad Kashmir every year at least once for our summer vacation. One summer when we went, we were very excited and looking forward to the vacation. My family and the rest of my dad's side all live in our grandma's house. It's a huge family. We live in a massive bungalow. The whole family has taken over the ground floor and the first floor. The upper floors are still under construction, so no one stays there yet. We often head to the terrace at night, gazing at the stars, having a little chat. A long time ago, when my mom got married into this house, my grandma told my mom that there's a presence in this house which does no harm to anyone, and it has been here since it was built in the 70s. Sometimes, while everybody was asleep, me, my siblings, and I used to sit late at night, and we used to sleep late around 12 to 2 a.m. One night we were all sitting and having fun and talking, but that night my uncle told us to go to our room early and sleep as they could hear us talk and laugh, and they couldn't sleep. It was around 11 p.m. at night. We all just went to our rooms to sleep. Now I remember I was the last one to go to my room, and everybody else was asleep. I used to sleep with my mom and siblings in this huge room on the first floor. So, after my cousins went to sleep, I came up and locked our door and went to bed. I was tossing and turning a lot for an hour or two. There are stairs attached to my room's wall for the second floor, and suddenly I heard someone who was apparently wearing anklets coming down the stairs. As I mentioned, I was the last person to come to my room. Then, who was this? The sound stopped for a few minutes, and now that person was walking beside my room. I was the last person to come back to my room. Then who was this? That person started walking near my bed, and now I could clearly hear the sound of the anklet. It stopped literally near my ear. I could feel the presence standing above me. The presence started walking again, but this time, it just went inside this wall behind my bed. There was no window and no door, just a wall. The sound of the anklet faded, I was shivering and trembling so much that I dared not open my eyes for even a second to see who it was. I kept chanting prayers, and I didn't realize it when I fell asleep. The next day when I woke up, I instantly told my mom about this, and she just took me to my grandma right away. My grandma told me not to talk about this a lot, and that we all should be aware of the presence of a woman that has been residing in this bungalow since the beginning. She's a wanderer, no harm to anyone. I was scared to death. That night, all my uncles and aunties started sharing their experiences with the woman in this house. It was a crazy night, and now I'm traumatized by the sounds of anklets. I wear soundless anklets. This was my first experience, and there were a lot of incidents connected to this one.
I've recently moved to Canada from Pakistan. But a few years ago in my parents' house, something out of the ordinary and rather scary happened to me. I did believe in ghosts, and I always acknowledged the fact that they exist among us, but had never experienced anything until that night, in the 2010s winter. My aunt's father-in-law and her husband had died the same year, and certain family disputes had begun. Hence, she, along with her children, came to live with us. It was then my mother had started picking signs of black magic, blood droppings on my father's clothes. We had chickens and bulbs bursting randomly and frequently. We had chickens and birds in our house, which started to die frequently, and especially pieces of meat found on the doorstep. Although I am not an early sleeper, that night I slept around 10 p.m. I do not remember exactly, but I think I was tired that day. I have the habit of sleeping in pitch dark and usually wrap myself entirely up in the blanket, also covering my face. The first thing that had me consciously wake up was a little weight heaviness I felt on my chest, but in a matter of a minute or so, it got heavier and heavier, which completely woke me up. But I couldn't open my eyes or move my body due to the weight on me. I felt as if something, hands perhaps, were moving towards my throat, and it became very difficult for me to breathe. Now, while this was happening, I couldn't move my legs or my hands. I clearly remember even today that I knew in my head that I needed to get up and move, but I just couldn't do it. I clearly remember directing energy towards my hands and feet, but to no end. In another minute, however, I was able to open my eyes, and what I saw has scared me and creeped me to this day. As I have mentioned earlier, I slept with my face covered. When I opened my eyes, I could see two eyes directly in front of my eyes. They were completely black and had a grayish-black shadow surrounding them. They were directly looking into my eyes. I don't know what that was or who that was. In my head, I was frantically trying to move my body, forcing myself to move a limb but couldn't. After several seconds or maybe a minute of having those eyes looking at me directly and suffocating me, I somehow, by the will of God, pushed the covers aside and just ran to my mother's room, which is right beside mine with a connecting door. But I clearly remember looking at the time. It was 3:05 a.m. from that day forward. I couldn't go into my room, couldn't sleep there, and especially couldn't use the washroom. I just felt like something was watching me. I was afraid it was going to come again for me. A few months from that day, I convinced myself to move back into my room again. And just like that, a few weeks passed by, and similarly, one night at the same time, 3:05 a.m., I woke up from deep sleep and saw a shadow standing in the corner across my bed, looking directly at me with the same eyes. This time it wouldn't come close, and I could see the whole figure in a black cloak and black hood, just standing there, staring. Once again, I ran to my parents' room and couldn't return for months. This time, I didn't feel paralyzed. Although ever since then, nothing as major has happened, but I always feel someone is looking at me when I am looking away. Someone is following me while I am walking, even in the light of day. I feel someone or something is in my room while I am in my bathroom. I just feel a continuous presence. And a few months ago, when I moved to Canada, I felt as if I had left whatever it was behind. But since a few weeks now, I am feeling the presence again. I'm afraid to look in the dark outside my bedroom because I am afraid I might see those eyes. I don't know whether I am paranoid or it's real, but I'm sure of one thing. I do feel a presence, harmful or unharmful. I just don't get a good vibe, and I feel it's there to scare me, and anytime it'll jump me. I just want to figure out what it is.
It all started 2 years ago when my school planned a picnic at a farmhouse. Everything was good. My two friends and I were walking in the garden when we saw a tree which was very much different from the others. We went to the tree and jokingly said, "If there is any spirit, contact us." As we said this, the air started blowing too fast. We found this situation weird, so we ran back to our class fellows and did not share this experience with anyone. We thought that everything would be fine as soon as we would be back home, but it wasn't. After a few days, my family decided on a road trip to the northern mountains. Over there, one night at our hotel, when everyone was asleep, I was up watching TV. When I heard a sound of the swing from my window, our room was on the first floor right next to a small playground. I went out to check, and then what happened, I really don't remember. I only remember that my father came and shook me when I found myself sitting on the swing. My father asked what I was doing. I didn't tell him the true story and said, "Just relaxing." This was the first time. The next day, I suffered from a strong fever. Then many strange activities started, like sounds coming from the kitchen while everyone was asleep. The TV would turn on and off by itself, and even the shaver would do the same. We also began having bad dreams, and, well, it was just really unsettling. I told my friends about all of this, and they said they were also experiencing these strange activities. We told the whole story to our teacher. She said that whenever the situation seems to be weird, recite some verses from the Quran. This did really work, and such activities were ending slowly but surely. But I can't forget those 4 months. Now those things have started again with only me and one of my friends. One of us is not being disturbed this time. Now we have no idea what to do and how to deal with this. We have not shared anything with our parents yet. We will go to school next week, and then we will share this with our teacher.